So the Saudis, again, you can believe that Vince has a relationship with them because of the past several years. They have had the relationship, and you can believe that Vince, once that he was advised by those close to him, remember these key words, folks, that have been telling a little story. He was advised by those close to him to step aside when the scandals came out. And then, by his own words, he said that was bad advice by people close to him, that he shouldn't have stepped aside, that it would have blown over. And then we have heard that Stephanie and Triple H, just over the past week, the reports are that they were against a sale. And a lot of people have said, oh, that means they're against Vince coming back and wanting to sell the company at all. They may not be against a sale. Might they just be against a sale to the Saudis? Have we determined that they were against all sales, or just this one that was proposed or thought about because Vince automatically, he might not fucking even trust NBC Universal or whatever, but he knows he's like Trump again. He knows these people got a lot of fucking money, and he don't care how they got it, and they keep it in pillowcases, and they'll probably hand him a number of them. So I can believe that that's the first thing. If he thought, you know what, we're going to sell this son of a bitch. They don't want me around. They don't want me to run this thing. Well, we'll sell the son of a bitch, and I'll get more money than anybody's ever fucking seen before, as well as gold and jewels and potentially some of those, what do they call the concubines? Is the concubines
paralegals?
The paralegal concubines over there in the Saudi world. You can believe
Saudi
he wants to put this together. Saudi world. That's where they'll be headquartered.
Their theme park. Yes.
At the new theme park. Yes.
Check out the beheadings twice a day.
So, but the point is, that was my question in the middle of all of that hyperbole. Have we determined that Stephanie and Triple H are not with selling the company to anybody, or just maybe not selling it to who Vince might have wanted to sell it to?
That hasn't been determined. The reporting that we've seen was that they were not looking for a sale. They were looking to somehow maximize the next rights package. And we can talk about that in a few moments. But they weren't looking for a sale. I'm sure if they were, and maybe with a Comcast, which everyone points to as the logical partner for them. But all of a sudden, I mean, we're piecing everything together from the outside. All of a sudden, the last minute, entering the new year, Vince McMahon throws 3 people off the board, takes 3 seats for himself. The investigator and the other guy who was involved with the investigation both resigned from the board because of this. They cite this.
And press pause on 1 second. It was unanimously voted by the board through documents that have been released that Vince not returned to the board about a month ago. And apparently this week, when he returned to the board, he was unanimously voted the chairman of the board, or the executive chairman. Go ahead.
His own daughter resigns. She resigned, I believe, before the vote. So she wasn't a part of the vote. She didn't vote for Vince. She decided to not just step down, but to leave the company for the first time.
If it had been 8-1 or whatever, that wouldn't have been much of a secret ballot, would it? You would have been able to figure out maybe.
And again, she's looked, not that this is, who knows what she's thinking, but she's on the outside. She still has her stock, so she's going to make a lot of money on this.
Would she have resigned? Because she had already announced last year, before all this blew up, that she was going to take a leave of absence, which she did, and then came back when the shit blew up with Vince. Wouldn't she have just said, okay, I'm going back to my leave of absence now? Would she have had, and I'll take it one step, kick it up a notch, bam, I'll emerald this son of a bitch, and I'll resign too. Would she have resigned even if she didn't have to fucking come to work? Because she was on a leave of absence, and
the only place she's ever worked her entire life.
The only place she's ever worked her entire life. And if she thought that NBC, Comcast, whatever, Universal, Sony, whoever the fuck, Disney is about to buy this thing, and she owns a bunch of its stock, wouldn't she have said, well, I'll hang around with a job title to collect my check and still take my leave of absence and then get a cash in when the big sale that I'll be apprised on every step of the way because I'm still affiliated with the company, blah, blah, blah. Why'd she have to resign?
Maybe it's also she doesn't want to get it on her because...
That's what I'm thinking.
The guys who resigned from the board, Manjeet Singh and I forget the other guy's name.
Ignates.
And him.
Ignates Mouse.
They were a part...
Precursor of Mickey. Look it up, kids.
They were a part of, or Crazy Cat, if you want to look up something really cool, too.
That's true.
They were part of the investigation, and they resigned, and word has since come out that there was more Vince stories, Vince information that is yet to get out in the public.
But, well, if all the people that were investigating and investifying it have resigned, maybe that won't get out anymore. Funny how that would work out.
Or someone will say, you know what, fuck this, I'm calling the Wall Street Journal. you don't know. You don't know how this plays out. You don't. But we also don't know what's going to happen with Triple H, because Triple H is someone who was the heir apparent for a very long time. You could say Stephanie, but really Triple H was the one everyone started pointing to, even Vince.
Right.
And then the health scare, he was gone. You talk about when Stephanie previously stepped down. Between Triple H leaving and Stephanie stepping down, and again, she has a sick husband, Vince also seemed to be, from a faraway point of view, and also when you talk to people that were either directly in a room with him or were backstage, people thought he was losing it. He was surrounding himself with yes men. The TV was unbearable. He all of a sudden put himself back on TV. He main evented WrestleMania against Steve Austin.
and Shane would have probably figured somehow into that if he hadn't of, and I love Shane. He's a great guy. He doesn't mean to do anything wrong, really, in his heart. But if he hadn't ingratiated himself so well with wanting to run roughshod over the Royal Rumble, I love that alliteration. It might have been Shane and Vince in a handicap match or in a tag match against Austin and Rock or whatever the fuck. Yes, you brought up and also when Stephanie had announced her leave of absence last year, Triple H was still sick.
He was still at home. Yeah.
He was still at home. He didn't come back until the shit blew up with Vince. And we said at that time, you know, is Triple H looking at this like, I got to do this long term or am I just, you know, helping right the ship or whatever? If he's feeling great, you know, applause to him, and however long he wants to do it, because he may be their, you know, last chance. But so he's still on the board and he's still in his position.
The ultimate survivor.
So we are relying on him now. But, well, they just had a talent meeting, because the all hands on deck meeting, and I guess that counts on Zoom in this day and age, right? We used to have to go to the goddamn office and be there for our brow beatings. But now you can either come in person or you can come by Zoom in order to be bullshitted or whatever. But that was for the employees that they had a few days ago. They just had their first talent meeting. I guess it would have been at SmackDown, right? And
that's right, yeah.
Triple H was running that and told the boys that Vince was back in for the sale and not creative, not saying it in a bad way or phrasing it a bad way, but say, hey, Vince is back to help spearhead the strategic alternatives, potential sale where, you know, it's all going to be roses. We're going to make a lot of money and major motion pictures and sitcoms, baby.
If he calls any of the blonde women into an office, just start yelling, Geronimo, Geronimo,
Geronimo,
and we will run out and get you.
It's in the oven. The cake is in there for all the 90s WWF office employees. When they yell, the cake is in the oven, all the blondes better scatter. But anyway, Triple H said at the talent meeting, but he's not here on creative, and there's going to be no changes in the way things are operating. To quote The Office and everybody else in the world that's ever said it, that's what she said. Isn't that the same thing that Stephanie said about 10 days ago, 3 days before she took back her leave of absence and resigned from the board and left to pursue a life of religious freedom?
I believe she did it by name. Nick will still be doing his Nick job, and Paul will be doing his Paul job, and I will be doing my job, and I resign.
I thought you were going to say, I'll be just doing blowjobs.
Oh, how dare you? She's an executive. Chief brand officer.
At home with Triple Paul.